All right, so this is video number 3 of section 2. How are pitch, frequency, and wavelength related? So as frequency increases, what happens to wavelength and pitch? And as frequency decreases, what happens to wavelength and pitch? And so we can look at this by just doing some simple drawings, right? So I'm going to draw some waves. So I'm going to draw a wave that has a really high frequency, a lot of waves. There we go. And I'm going to draw one that has a very low frequency, very few waves. All right. And so again, if we counted up these waves, we could say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 waves. And this one has 1 and 2 waves. So this one has a much lower frequency. Waves don't happen as often. And so again, I want you to think about, what are we really thinking about? Pitch, frequency, and wavelength. All right, so we already took care of frequency. As frequency increases, what happens to wavelength and pitch? Well, we can just look at these two models and see that right away. If I use another color, let's say orange, you could see that my wavelength is right here to here, and my wavelength is right here to over here. Now, what do you notice happen from wave 1 to wave 2? As frequency increases, so we're actually going to write that out. We're going to do frequency. Actually, you know what? It's going to be better if I just type it out. So in this case, as frequency increases, all right, move this over. As frequency increases, wavelength decreases, and as wavelength decreases, the pitch increases. So you could see those relationships right there. And so I'm going to move this over again. So that is for this. Frequency increases, 10 waves. Wavelength decreases, it gets smaller. Pitch just increases. So it's going to be a high-pitched sound, right? So then you have wave number 2, which if you look, it's kind of the opposite of what this is up here, right? So if we type in our box here, so we could see that as frequency decreases, right? Less waves. The wavelength increases, it gets longer, and pitch decreases, or it goes down, and so you get a lower pitch. So it's going to be a lower sound, like hello instead of hello. And so that's the difference between these. And so these are the relationships. And so we can also show this with a graph. And so if we go to a new document, we can, let's see if there is a graph on here. I wonder if there is. It doesn't look like there is. All right, that's fine. So if we have a graph like this, though, we can go ahead and take a look, and we can label this. What happens to frequency? And actually, I'm just going to type that out. It's going to be easier. Frequency. And then over here, we're going to have wavelength. And so technically, this should be smaller. I don't want it to overextend here. All right, wavelength, right? So frequency and wavelength. And so as frequency increases, right? So the wave starts to look like this instead of this. As that happens, the wavelength gets smaller. It goes like this, and pitch will increase. And so we need to know these relationships. So as wavelength increases, the frequency as wavelength decreases, the frequency gets larger. And that's what the relationship we need to know.